how to live an authentic life, how to stop being a square peg bashing against a round hole. Now, it's so easy to wake up one day and not understand who you are, to feel so lost, and it's not just isolated to a partnership, a marriage, a job, a set of habits, or a sense of identity. For whatever reason, you can just wake up feeling very uncomfortable in your own skin, and you need to recalibrate who you are and redefine what your life is all about. Now, this is easily done. Life gets away from us. We maybe half consciously make decisions and we go with it for whatever reason. Maybe it's convenient, there's external influences, but ultimately, you at certain points in your life, you wake up and you just don't understand how you got here or why you're doing this. Now, that's a really uncomfortable place to be, and that is why in this video we are going to look at a personal model of mine, which is the 3 tiers of acceptance, which is used to bring you into a greater sense of understanding with yourself. Okay, so starting at the first layer, it's self-reflection. At the second layer, it's social acceptance, which just means looking into your external influences to kind of garner some support for who you think you might really be. And then the final step is transformation, which is really the implementation of these ideas you have about yourself. Now, this model is for very fast and rapid transformation of self, okay? That's not necessarily going to be for everyone. It's for people who really, really want to change abruptly. Tier 1, self-reflection. So in tier 1, it's all about this very, very internal self-reflection, okay? Forget the outside world. It's the self-discovery of understanding who you are and what you're about. Okay, so how do you do that? Now, I always point back to this quote. It was in The Big Short, and it's something like, it's not the things you know that don't know that it's not the things that you don't know that hurt you. It's the things you know for sure that just ain't so. Okay. So what that's referring to is there's this whole external. Well, it's not external. This whole other kind of non-conscious existence within you that you don't have a grasp of. Okay. There's a side of you that you yourself don't understand, or perhaps you do. Okay. But the point is, you've got to be open to the idea that you don't understand yourself. So, how are you going to understand yourself better? Well, one idea might be perhaps to journal and just put lots of ideas out and almost do this kind of self analysis, okay? Take an inventory of who you are. Another idea might be to look at trigger points in your life. So, in what scenarios in your life do you go out and feel particularly interested or particularly disinterested? What are the points of pleasure? What are the points of pain? Those are great clues to understand really what you're about. Okay? A massive insight here at this point is to understand you might want something. So, say for example, you're poor, right? And you think, I really want to make money. I really want to make money. Now you do want to make money, but you might think, no, I want some nice clothes. I want a nice car. Now in that situation, you might need to look underneath. Oh, okay. So you might want some money for sustenance, for food, for financial security. But why do you want all those flashy things? What's underneath that? And underneath that might be, I just want to feel good about myself, and perhaps all the people around me, perhaps the the society I lives in, the society or the town or the family or whatever that I live in, really values these material possessions, and I just want acceptance. Now that is a great example of, I want this, but I wasn't aware that I actually wanted this. So be really diligent, be really honest with yourself. Now, I said this was an internal journey at this phase, but I would also include like therapy at this stage because it's still very you centric. That's the first stage. Take a really, really hard look at yourself and really try and understand what you want. If you can't figure it out, that's okay. Tier 2, social support. So hopefully at this point you have a much better understanding of what you want to work towards. However, naturally you've lived this separate life, okay? It's unlikely that it's going to be a smooth transition out of the life you've been living to the one you want to move towards. So at this point, you really need to look for social support. Now, you might not get it. You might turn to your partner, you might turn to your parent, you might turn to your friends, and they go, "Are you freaking crazy? Are you crazy? You're going to do that. You're thinking about that." It's a great time to take note and use of all the people in your life that you care about and try and have a really honest conversation about where you're at. If you're generally unhappy in your life, that is quite a deep thing to carry, and all the associated shame and whatever else stigmatization that you might feel about making changes. Look, I'm not saying that you're not tough, that you're not strong willed. I'm sure you are. However, we are Homo sapiens. We need that support from the crowd. So speak to your nearest and dearest and just try and be honest with them about one, where you're at, and two, what you're thinking you might need. Because they also might give you some insight into who you are and what you need that you might think that you might be really receptive to. Build support. Build a base of support. This is the fuel you need to then springboard into an actually transformative experience. You can use WhatsApp groups, you can use like one-to-one calls with your friends. You might just meet up with them once a week or whatever it is, or they might just go, "You know what, if you've got thoughts, if you've got concerns, text me anytime." You need to accumulate all of that in this phase. Tier 3, transformation. This tier is very difficult. It's very, very difficult. It's ultimately, you've made the plan, you've concocted the plan. Now are you ready to charge out of your house and make the difference? I am not discouraging you from not doing it because it is very, very difficult. You might take stock of where you're at and just think, "You know what? I would like to do this. I would like to run away. I would like to start this business. I would like to cut them off. They kind of do get in my way. I would like to start again." But ultimately, for all these various commitments, it's just not possible. That may be true. So it's ultimately at this stage, it's a decision. Do you want to jump or do you not want to? And either is okay with me because life can be very difficult. However, if you are willing to make that change, to make that huge jump and to go against the grain of all these things you've already set in stone in your life, now is the time. What that means is being very brave and most likely making radical changes to completely transform your life. And I mean that literally. So perhaps you were working job X, you're now going to work job Y. Perhaps you were in relationship Y, you're now going to be in relationship B. It's about changing the environment. Changing the environment. If you physically put into place a different reality, a different routine, different terms of usage for your life, then it has to transform. It's just very difficult to do that. Now, obviously, I'm talking here about a very big and broad transformation that's almost got a certain amount of drama to it. That might not necessarily be true for you. You might also need to just make smaller changes. However, the point of tier 3 is you take action. It's about taking action. It's about no longer theorizing who you are or wondering who you are. It's that final pillar, it's that final peak of this 3-tier system where you change who you are. You have to live a different experience to be a different person, okay? If you have something buried inside you, it can't really exist just as this kind of internal voice. It has to be given like an acceptance. I think credence is the right word to use here. you have to allow it to exist in the real world to really allow it to flourish, to really allow it to be a part of you. Now, I appreciate all of that is much easier said than done, but ultimately that is how you can very abruptly stop being a square peg in a round hole. Hopefully that helps. I sincerely hope it does. It's really enabled me in my life to acknowledge, oh yes, I'm working on things, but how much am I working on them? How far have I taken this? Have I got various ideas about myself into those various buckets? Will I talk about some things but not implement them? Will I only think some things and never talk about them? It's a really great way to manage the progression of self realization, of self development. Anyway, I really hope that helps. Sincerely, I've been making some other videos. If you would like to check them out and give me some feedback, I would love to hear that. If you've got any other suggestions for anything else you might want to hear, also please let me know. Best of luck. Care about you very much. Keep going.